Hi, welcome to this screencast, part 3 of Ruby Meta classes. Let's get started. I want to show you a concept of opening up a class and defining a method in there versus opening up an object and defining it. Let's say I define a class foo and I create an instance of foo and I can call the method. Let's open up the object first. Okay, I'm opening up the class object and define a method and declare a class foo and I instantiate it and I'll call my method on it. So it says hello in class. Let's just make it in object. So hello in object. What if we open up the class in Ruby and do the same thing? Hello in class. Can we still run it? It says undefined method, my method for foo. So what's going on here? Since it's defined in the class, I cannot use the object foo as a receiver. You need to use, it's a class method, so this is how we would call that method. Since it's a class method, you say foo dot, then the method name says hello in class. Okay, now let's go back to the old one and just call my method from here. It says hello in object. So when you define your class, Ruby executes all statements one by one. It's called scripting language because when an interpreter finds statements that needs to be executed, it just executes during runtime. So it's just a method. So how does this Ruby know where this method is declared? I'll show you how it's declared. Before that, I want to show you a difference between using this, okay, and what happens if it is just a class. Can I still call this? Yes, hello in class. You can call it regardless of whether you open up a class or an object, you can still call the method from here. So notice that this is kind of peculiar if you're coming from another programming language like Java or something else. This is not declared within the method. It's just there like a keyword of the language or something. But it's your own method. And there is no entry point into the program or anything as such. Like if you're coming from Java, you have public static void main as the entry point, whereas we don't have anything as such. It just executes as it encounters whatever line the interpreter comes and starts executing it. So can I print the value of self in this case is foo? Doesn't matter if I change this to object, it's still going to refer that as foo. And let's say foo.my method hello in class foo. What if I open it up as this and do it still says hello in class. Whether you declare it this way, hello in object. So even though you declare it within the object, this method, you don't need an instance of it as long as you're within the foo method. It's able to find it and execute the statements in it. So what happens, let's say you're outside of this class, it differs, and I'll show you the difference. Let's say if equals, yeah, that's already shown where you instantiate, and then you have to call the method. Otherwise, you won't be able to access it. You cannot just say foo.method because it's not there. Oh, foo.myMethod. What's going on? So let's print this. Foo.method is hello in method. Okay, now if you say class, run this thing, foo.myMethod is just hello in class. So you won't be able to do this since it's declared in class. It will say undefined method, my method, but you're able to access it as foo dot. It's still a class method whether you declare open up the class or open up the object. So that really brings the point that last time we saw objects cannot hold any methods. That really drives home the point, right? So I cannot do this, whereas if this is an object, then I can do that. That is the distinction, hello in object basically. Okay, so now we are somewhat familiar with this opening up the class and the object. Let's complicate the hell out of this by defining something called as the meta class. This terminology is not a really a Ruby standard way of specifying this meta class concept. Some call it eigenclass and all kinds of terminologies floating around, but for this screencast and for the purpose of learning, we'll just use the meta classes. Okay, so in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the class object, and I'm going to define a method called meta class. This will return the meta class. Okay, the strange meta class. And let's experiment with this thing. Let's also go back to our previous example that we were playing with, the class chess player having an accessor and some attributes. And now let's experiment a little bit. We have an instance of player, okay, and let's print the meta class for this player and see what the meta class is. It says class and then the player. So when you use this class less than something syntax, you're opening up a meta class. In Ruby it's also called as virtual classes. And if, as you saw in the meta class, the result looks like this. What does this thing really mean? This is a class attached to an object, player, a specific object. This is the location in the memory. So when an object finds methods in an attached meta class, these methods are referred to as the object's singleton methods rather than the object's meta class instance methods. A singleton is not in the sense of gang of four design pattern singleton. There is singleton design pattern in Ruby, but this is not the design pattern singleton. This is a singleton in the sense that particular instance of an object has that method. So, and there can only be single meta class attached to an object. It's called again singleton. So I hope you learned something from this screencast. I want to stop here because I would rather gradually build up to more complicated concepts rather than cover everything at once. So if you enjoyed the screencast, please recommend me on working with Rails. Thank you. God bless.